So exactly how many different dividend stocks should you own in your own dividend portfolio? What's up you guys? Welcome back to the Average Joe Investor channel. My name is Joe, and in this video we are talking about a question that I've gotten a ton on my channel, which is how many different dividend stocks should you own in your own dividend portfolio? What's the right number? Specifically, in this video, we're going to cover 4 different strategies, of which I've tried 2 of them already myself. I'm gonna share with you the pros and cons of each of these different strategies, why it's a good idea, why it's a bad idea. I'll share with you exactly the dividend strategy I'm using right now in my own portfolio. And then from there, hopefully you have enough information to make a decision for your own portfolio as well. You guys know how much I love talking about dividend stocks and cash flow and dividend ETFs and everything in between, guys. So if you appreciate this video, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and let's get started. Hey guys, Joe here. If you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button below the video to make sure you don't miss any of my future videos. And if you do click that subscribe button, make sure to leave me a comment below saying you subscribed, and I promise to personally respond to your comment. Alright guys, without any further delay, let's go ahead and jump right into the content. So we're answering the question here of how many different dividend stocks should you own in your own portfolio. The very first strategy we're going to talk about is holding a very concentrated set of dividend stocks, approximately 5 to 20 different positions. Now to be very clear, this is one of the strategies I tried to implement in the very beginning, and I'll share with you more about that in just a second. Here are some pros and cons with respect to owning a very small amount of dividend stocks. First off, it's very easy to manage this type of portfolio. If you've got, let's say, 5 to 10 different dividend stocks, which I would say most investors start with a starter portfolio with around 5 to 10 positions here. One of the biggest principles of owning a dividend portfolio is you want to hold positions that are safe. You don't generally invest in a ton of different dividend stocks that you think are going to have a dividend cut. That is contrary to what you're trying to achieve. So when we try to manage a portfolio, having a small amount of positions is very easy to manage and track to ensure that you don't run into any different dividend cuts. And with a small set of concentrated positions, you can still achieve diversification across different sectors of the economy. It just means that you might have one position in a sector of the economy as opposed to maybe 2, 3, or maybe 4. Now the downside is pretty clear here. With a concentrated set of positions, it's very easy to potentially have a dividend cut that would dramatically change your portfolio. I mean, just to give you guys some clarity here, here's a list of dividend cuts and suspensions that have occurred since COVID happened. I mean, guys, this is a long list of different companies that have cut their dividend. Now, nobody expects a COVID-19 disaster to happen, but it still happens, and it affected a ton of companies. I mean, look at this list, guys. These are all companies that have cut their dividends. And when you have a small and concentrated dividend portfolio, you are open to the risk of having a dividend cut in your own portfolio, and that could significantly impact your portfolio. Now, you can still track that portfolio well, and with tracking the dividend payout ratio based on free cash flow, which we've talked about many times in the channel, you can certainly have leading indicators, but even companies that had strong financial positions still had issues due to COVID-19, and some of them even had to cut their dividend. So small concentrated portfolio, the big win here is it's easy to manage and great for a starter dividend investor, but you have issues with diversification, and any one position that has an issue could really impact your portfolio. Second strategy here is one that I have not tried here, one that actually scares me a little bit, which is having a ton of positions in your portfolio. And we're talking maybe 25 to 100 different dividend stocks in the portfolio. Now, to be fully honest and transparent, for me, this sounds like a complete nightmare, but I know people that do this and are successful. The clear pro here with having a significant portfolio is you have diversification, right? And any one position, even if it were to completely blow up and cut their dividend, it would still not be a meaningful impact to your portfolio, maybe 1 to 3% as opposed to 10 to 20% if you had a small and concentrated portfolio. Plus, as you see buying opportunities during a correction, you can just add new positions to the portfolio. That being said, the big downside here with having a significant dividend portfolio, unless you're a really experienced investor, is you generally don't have a good strategy or system in place to manage all of your positions. And as a result, it's really easy to lose track of what positions are in your portfolio. And that really opens you up to the risk of having a dividend cut, or just not even realize certain dividend stocks in your portfolio have stopped paying dividends or have cut their dividend. Now, yes, you could certainly have a system in place to make sure that you're monitoring all of your positions and tracking them on a specific interval basis, but that seems like a lot of work for me. And one of the greatest reasons to have a dividend portfolio is to be able to set it and forget it as much as possible. One of the big issues for me was I started with around 20 positions, and that grew to 35 pretty easily, and as a result, I started to lose track of which dividend stocks were what in my portfolio, and I didn't have a good system in place to be able to manage them. As a result, I did pare back my portfolio to 20, and I've since dropped it to around 16 or 17, but I am planning to add to that portfolio very soon, and I'm gonna talk more about that in this video actually. So the big pros here, again, for the holding a significant portfolio is you've got diversification, and any one position would not cause a significant problem in your portfolio, and you have the freedom to add new positions and not worry about your overall portfolio. But the big con here is being able to lose track of everything and opening yourself up to risk to losing awareness on what's in your own portfolio. All right, third strategy here, which is also another great one for the beginner dividend investor, which is to just own dividend ETFs and not own individual dividend stocks. Now, the good news is here in 2021, there are an abundance of amazing dividend ETFs. I've talked about them on my own channel, both dividend ETFs with significant diversification and high yield dividend ETFs as well. There are lots of options here, and a lot of them have low expense ratios as well. So as a beginner dividend investor who wants to generate cash flow, or somebody who's in retirement who wants to just have a set it and forget it type of portfolio, owning a number of different dividend ETFs can be a great solution. Obviously, we've got instant diversification, and dividend ETF has a number of holdings already in the portfolio that's not managed by you, it's managed by the exchange traded fund. And as a result, you don't have to manage it. It's very easy. It's set it and forget it. The big downside I would say to holding only dividend ETFs is it's actually kind of difficult to get a meaningful dividend yield. Now, some of the high yield dividend ETFs out there are actually pretty good. And you've even got ETFs like QYLD and RYLD, the covered call ETFs that have different tax consequences for sure, but have significant dividend yields, which you can incorporate into your portfolio. But you know, Vanguard's dividend ETFs are only yielding about 2 or 3%. And generally, most investors want to see yields of 4 to 5%, or at least dividend yields in the high 3s and 4s when they're trying to generate as much cash flow as possible. Additionally, you also have expense ratios with dividend ETFs that you don't have with individual holdings. But that being said, most of the dividend ETFs out there have very minimal expense ratios, and it's well worth that cost if you have this set it and forget it dividend portfolio. All right, last strategy here we're gonna talk about, the one that I'm actually incorporating into my own portfolio right now, is having a mixture of dividend ETFs and individual stocks. If you're part of the Patreon community, which by the way, if you're not part of that, you've really gotta check it out, guys. It's extra dividend content from me, awareness on the specific portfolio that I own and changes that I make along the way, along with additional dividend content, and a monthly dividend stock spreadsheet updated every single month for you guys to make meaningful decisions on adding different stocks to your portfolio. There's a lot going on there. It might be a great value to you. There's a link in the description below. But in my Patreon community, I talked about how I made a change in my portfolio. I sold off my lowest yielding 5 positions, and instead I purchased a dividend ETF, which makes up about 19 to 20% of my portfolio currently, and that is SCHD, the Schwab US Equity Dividend ETF. It's got a yield of around 2.77, 2.78, actually resulted in a raise in my portfolio dividend yield because my lowest 5 positions actually were yielding less than 2.75%. What this did for me was gave me diversification, because a lot of people say, hey, you know, you've only got 20 positions, you don't have a lot of diversification, and that's true. Although 20 was a really great number for me to manage personally with all the other things I've got going on in life. But instead what I did was I wanted to be able to still pick individual stocks that I liked that had great growth rates and high dividend yields, but I wanted to also take some of that risk off the table and add some more diversification. And the way I did that was by purchasing a dividend ETF. But now I'm able to also really hone in on and focus on the individual positions that I really enjoy looking at, that I think are great positions to own in my own portfolio. As you can see right here, Schwab makes up about 18.51% of the portfolio. And then I've got individual positions that I really am excited about, like Westlake Chemical, Realty Income, AbbVie, Manulife Financial, Eris Capital, Store Capital. And as my individual positions grow, right now it's about 16, 17 different positions, I have the ability to then build out a system that helps me track those and make sure that I'm monitoring any changes, any meaningful changes in the dividend growth rates, as well as any meaningful changes in the dividend payout ratio based on free cash flow. Is there a downside to this strategy? I'm not sure that there is. Maybe the fact that I do have some expense ratios that are built into there. I've got SCHG, but I've also got QYLD and RYLD, which make up about 5% of the portfolio for those 2 covered call ETFs. Yes, there are maybe some tax consequences I have to deal with there as well, but ultimately it really brings up my dividend yield in the portfolio and gives me diversification, as as well as the opportunity and the freedom to pick individual holdings that I really like. So for you, what is the right amount of positions? Ultimately, it's based on your unique circumstances. Some of you are retired and able to manage your positions or really enjoy managing your own portfolio, and as a result, you hold individual stocks or maybe a mixture of dividend stocks and dividend ETFs, and you really enjoy that, and you have the time to manage that appropriately. That being said, some people out there have a lot going on. I'm like that. I really enjoy dividend stocks, which is why I do this, but a lot of people out there want to invest, want to just have a set it and forget it mindset and hold a cash flow portfolio that they don't have to manage on a day-to-day basis. And for those of you out there, I would say that maybe dividend ETFs or a mixture of a few different dividend ETFs and maybe a few individual holdings that you enjoy might be a great fit for you. Or having a small and concentrated dividend portfolio. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the right decision is the one that makes sense for you. Do you have a system in place that helps you manage your dividend stocks? Hopefully you found some value out of this video, guys. Make sure to leave your 2 cents in the comments below. Let me know what you thought about it, what other video topics you want to see more from me about. I don't want to make videos that I enjoy making. I want to make videos that you want to see more of. So that's where you leave your 2 cents in the comments below. I learn more about what my audience wants. It's a great partnership. That's all I got for you guys. Have a great rest of your day, and please continue to stay healthy, both physically and financially. Have a good one.